Hello, everyone. I am Rhonda Hull, and have you noticed that life has become pretty unpredictable? I mean, lately, rather than trying to figure anything out or force anything to happen, I have done my best just to surrender to letting the universe guide me to the next best step, intending to live the moments we have more fully. And the universe has led me to someone very, very special, Kelsey Dalziel, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
You
All
got
right.
it.
Kelsey is a woman I have experienced who has many, many talents. She is an international spiritual medium who is passionate about reconnecting people with their loved ones on the other side. She is also a soul coach and a fierce advocate for women looking to find purpose beyond the daily grind. Kelsey believes that the most important spirit in the room is our very own spirit. And she has her own desire that has guided her to be just 1% better than she was the day before, just letting it be that journey of perfectly imperfect. She believes that no matter how hard we can be on ourselves, and my experience in the past and every now and then still is that I can be pretty hard on myself, is that we just need to shift our perspective to rediscover our light. So Kelsey, I want to welcome you today. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about our conversation that's going to happen.
Yeah. So given that life has become so unpredictable, um, and trying to figure it out just doesn't happen well these days. Kind of what's the best uh, initial nugget you can give us to help people deal with the way things are changing at this rapid pace?
If I could sum it all into one nugget is breathe.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
breathe. Yeah.
So, um, Kelsey, I just have to say that prior to doing this interview, I got to experience one of Kelsey's readings, and it was the perfect way to prepare me and grease the wheel for this, because prior to this call, Kelsey and I had had one sharing where just a basic introduction, but she knew nothing, very little, zero zip about my past. And I can't tell you how accurate she was at identifying things about my mom, things about my dad, things about my family, things about a brother who had passed that I hadn't shared with her. So I know it just absolutely validated for me that you have a gift. Um, Kelsey, you spent so many years as a nail tech.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your first uh, entrepreneurial endeavor. So for those who do not know or who may be skeptical or not understand, explain what a medium is and explain how your journey as a nail tech somehow led you to being a medium.
So mediumship is the ability to connect. Actually, I think it's time spent in communication, the practice of time spent in communication with the other side. So spirits, guides, angels, wherever we go when our body ceases to function when we die. So yeah, I was a nail tech. I actually grew up really intuitive. I had uh, uh, imaginary friends. I'm like, what do you call them again? I'm like, they're spirits now. I had imaginary friends when I was little, and I knew who was calling before we had caller ID. And I used to love to sit and people watch and make up stories about people. And at 19, I was doing Reiki energy healing, and my mom's friend, who was a tarot card reader, she was teaching me how to read tarot cards. And then I met my husband when I was 21, and I didn't want a boyfriend. So I told him that I was really weird and I was into all this and healing stuff to scare him away. And that didn't work. I ended up marrying him because he's the best. And so I started doing nails when I was 19. So holding hands with women. And when I was, in this intuitive kind of exploration energy phase, I was really tapped into that and started practicing, tapping into people's energy and really listening to women who were much older than me, usually in their late 30s, 40s, 50s. That was my, my clientele's average.
But you considered an old person at that point.
Which was probably ancient. Now I'm there and I'm like, I'm spring chicken still. but yeah, just listening to women and listening to life and their problems and the patterns that I see, and just getting really curious about psychology too, and the way that people work. Yeah, so I got married, I had kids, did nails. And then when my youngest, who's now 9, he was 2 years old, I opened up a aesthetic shop. Me and a friend opened up a nail shop. And I was going through a really hard time at that point. I was really anxious. I was very empathic. I'd put all of this psychic stuff away because my husband said it was weird. And it's like, I call it white picket fence syndrome now, when it's like, you forget who you really are because you are supposed to do this thing over here. So I was supposed to get married, have kids, get the house, the dog, the husband, all that kind of stuff. And was miserable because nails was not my purpose, my life's calling. And I put it away to, when you want to impress a boy, that's what you do. And I'll just say that he's
it's
very.
What we do. It's where women are conditioned to kind of
totally
tone it down.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Sit down and be quiet. Do what you're supposed to do. Yeah. But he is very supportive of me now. We're still together and he's awesome. But I make money doing this now. So he's like, okay, you can be weird. But and I'm happy. So yeah, and so I opened up this shop, and adding a brick and mortar business onto my already stressed out life with 3 little kids, and being misaligned with my purpose, just was like, it was almost too much. And I went through a time in my life where I would have panic attacks, and I had a lot of like crazy anxiety, social anxiety. I was drinking to kind of ease that social anxiety. I was so much fun when I was drinking, but it really was the worst thing for me because I couldn't actually be out socially without having drinks because the anxiety was so crazy.
Right.
And I became really depressed, and I actually found myself in a place where I was feeling like I had no other choice but to take my life because I didn't see a way out. I caught myself one day. I had this one moment of clarity where I realized that these thoughts that I was having, these really dark thoughts, seemed rational. And I was like, that's not okay. So I got on my knees and I said to whatever was out there, that thing that's bigger than us, I didn't have a name for it. I didn't have an explanation for what it was. And I was just like, I need your help. I don't know what to do. And the next day or the day after, very soon after, it was like I had a client who came in and she sat down and I'm doing her nails and she said, I'm going to go see this medium. I'm super excited. And it was like this light just burst out of me. And it was like, I used to be obsessed with mediums, and I grew up watching John Edward after school, and I, and Sylvia Brown and all these things. And I was doing energy work and when I was 19 and all this stuff came flooding back to me. And 6 weeks later, I was in a development class. So I secretly went to these classes for 2 years. I didn't tell my husband until I started doing it publicly. And I say I was out of the broom closet. And friends found out. My husband's not on any social media. He's a very private guy. And I posted something on Facebook about reading at a psychic fair. We went over to a friend's house that night, and the husband opened the door and said, "You're a psychic now?" And I was like, shit. My husband's like kicking me and he's like, what are they talking about? So, so yeah, it was just, I started, I took meditation, or I found meditation. I became a meditation teacher almost immediately after I found it, because it was so healing to me to just sit and meditate. And I was just curious about all of these things, and just was learning and learning and learning and learning. And in the classes, I realized that when I was making up those stories, when I would sit and people watch, when I was younger, I was actually reading them, but I just didn't say anything to them, so they couldn't validate what I was giving them. So I just went into it with like, what have I got to lose? Like,
yeah,
why hold back? And yeah, and I learned something even now from every reading. I learned something about myself. I learned something about the human spirit. I learned something about the spirit world. I'm always learning about the world around us through doing readings. And eventually I saw a hole, I saw a need, where people were coming to me for readings over and over and over again, and kind of giving me their power. And I felt like they were giving me their power by coming over and over and over again to see me.
That's what was coming up from you when you were doing that. It's like, it is having the reading with you just validated so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the example of what we are capable of ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, it's wonderful to experience someone who has a gift, as long as it's that mutual exchange of growth energy. But when it becomes a dependency on, you're connected and I'm not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's what I'm really passionate about is teaching. And I was saying earlier to you, it's like that old saying, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for life. That kept rattling around in my brain. And I kept seeing these people over and over again and being like, you can do this too for yourself. You have the power in you. You are connected to the same thing that I'm connected to. And people were just saying, it still makes me a little bit uncomfortable when people are like, you have such an amazing gift. And you said that to me. And I'm like, we all have different gifts. And we're all connected to the same thing. And whether you're, and I would say, like, maybe we are all mediums for the universe, and medium as in like an art medium. So mine is channeling spirit. Yours, you're a psychologist. So maybe that's your gift. And people are, some people sit down at the piano and they just play and they know how to play, and others have to work at it really hard. And I always liken it to math. So I'm good at like fifth grade math. Like I can help my kids up until fifth grade, but beyond that, doesn't work. So I'm never going to be a math teacher. I'm never going to be, a CPA. I'm never going to be, something that uses like high level. I'm never going to do calculus ever. Sorry, high school teacher. But mediumship, you can connect with your guides and angels and your aunts and your own soul, but maybe you're not going to do this as a job, but you can still do it for yourself and use it in your everyday life. And that's where the soul coaching comes in, and the empowering people to do that.
One of the obstacles or challenges, the opportunities for me, always kind of having lived on the edge, on the forefront, the thought leader out there thinking about things that people haven't thought about yet.
Yeah.
It's the having to adapt to the way that it's being done in order to create the bridge, and to learn that you don't have to go back across the bridge. You live it here, but it still doesn't fit on a business card, So, and like you were saying, once money was coming in offering your gift, then it became, it fit more into the valid, this is an okay thing.
Yeah.
And now we're on this new paradigm shift of trusting that if we live it from the place of really deep down getting that it already is, and that we've all got it, and that there is no there, the there is the here.
Yeah.
It's like we all share two things in common. We have birth and we have death. And birth, you come through the tunnel to the light, and death, you go through the tunnel to the light, you know, you exit. And on either side, there's a cheering section, you know, it seems like we're welcomed coming and going. And there is that, I know I just had a dear friend die yesterday. And so there's the absence of him in the human form, but the true celebration that he has returned to pure love, you know? So here we're all, death is not a conversation that has been easily integrated into our humanness. We have a much easier time talking about birth than we do about death, and we kind of have that allergic reaction to it. And yet with this pandemic that we're all experiencing, and fear is just palpable for so many, we've all bumped into our mortality. And not just those who have a cancer diagnosis or some long-term illness or those who are struggling. We're all surrounded by bumping into our mortality. So I'm hoping that by you and I having a conversation like this, and the interviews that I do that cover the spectrum of how we all approach death, that it becomes, we can minimize our fears. You know, people think that if we just don't talk about it, nobody's going to die, you know? So I don't want to spiritual whitewash it anymore. I really want to just provide and give permission to people to talk about it. So tell us a little bit more about how you use both your soul coaching and as being a medium, how you are able to help people minimize their fears about death and help people through their grieving process.
Well, I think it's interesting. The grieving process has really become apparent to me. I just lost my dad in December. And the first thing I thought of when we got this is going to be the end kind of conversation from the hospital was, oh, okay, so now I get to experience grief. Okay, and now I get to observe this. And I am not in any way as a medium exempt from any grief. And it really deepened my practice, and it deepened my understanding and my empathy for my clients, because I was able to, I can relate now. And before it was like, hey, I do this thing and I can connect you, like they're still there. And now when I do this, it's like, I understand what you've been through.
Right.
Let's have a conversation.
As compassionate as a male obstetrician can be.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And it's funny because I see some mediums that I know, and just the way that they talk and the way they move, I observed that perhaps I moved in that way before too. But I'm a little bit more cautious and a little bit more compassionate because I do have this. And that's just, and it's not that they're doing anything wrong, and it's not that I was doing anything wrong. It's just that I didn't have that perspective. And it's not a perspective that I would wish on anybody. It's terrible to lose somebody that you love and that you're close with. But it's definitely deepened my understanding for my clients. And I think with the soul coaching, I say very often to people, like, you might get 100 years. You might. Maybe not a lot of people get 100. We celebrate people who make it to 100, right? We're like, that is crazy, but what is the quality of life? And just by listening to, stories of clients with their loved ones who have passed, and said, like, oh, I wish I had done this and I wish I had done that. My dad said, I wish I learned to play the guitar for the last few months of his life. He was like, I think I'm going to start playing guitar. And like all of these things started coming up. And it's like, if you get that curiosity or that inspiration to go and do something, go and do it. Go and do it, as long as it's not harming anybody. So that's where the soul coaching comes in. So I teach people to connect to their soul, to listen to those intuitive whispers, to listen to those divine inspirations, to recognize what they are and how they come through, and how you receive information from the world around you energetically. And then what is it that sets your soul on fire? What is it that your soul and your spirit are dying to do? Is it writing a book? Is it learning guitar? Is it spending more time with your kids? Is it starting that company? Is it, you know, traveling to Bali? Is it, you know, going on a mission to Africa? Whatever it is, listening to those soul whispers will allow you to have a more fulfilled life, and hopefully less shoulda, coulda, wouldas at the end of your life. Because, you know, and I say we might get 100 years, but we might just die tomorrow too.
And
So
just used was dying to, they're just dying to go to Bali, da 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 da.
yeah.
And it's interesting how we have used that word to explain. It's like we're dying. The dream, the wish is dying. You're dying to go to Bali rather than you just go to Bali.
Yeah.
Living until you die rather than dying until you die.
Yeah.
And I, you know, I in this human form, I don't think any of us do it consistently, but when I can tap into that flow, life becomes so fun to follow the curiosities, and you begin to see how more and more and more unfolds. You see the abundance that's there that you miss when you're dying to live. You know?
And I really find that doing something that's becoming very apparent to me, I knew it, but now I'm living it because I'm diving into the inner work. We were talking earlier about the personal development going along with mediumship is the key. So, you know, from your frame of reference, when you're connecting with somebody, you can understand what's coming through. But I know for myself, doing the inner work, just doing you witnessed me on a call. This is where we met. We were on a coaching call, and I did some deep inner work. And literally the next day, someone from the local news reached out to me to talk about meditation. I've never been on the news before. I don't know how they got my number. I don't know where they found me. But it was like, when we do that inner work, when we sit with ourselves and see what's going on the inside, and what's holding us back, and really explore and surrender and just say like, oh, that was sitting there, that thing was blocking this inspiration and this flow and this life purpose, or whatever you want to call it. When you see it and you dissolve it, and just recognize it, move it out of the way maybe a little bit, it opens us up for these opportunities to heal. And I went on the news, and I choked, and all the things that I wanted to say, I didn't say, and I, you know, was so hard on myself. And that's that self-criticism that I'm trying to heal, that criticism part that I'm trying to heal. So I was given the divine opportunity again to witness my self-criticism and my not being perfect, not being good enough wound, and just accept it and be like, well, that was fun. Let's do that again, right?
Well, yeah, this and something better, you know. We don't often get the outcome that we imagine. I think it was Mark Twain who said, I've experienced some really terrible things in my life, some of them which actually happened.
Yeah.
We go out there and experience and imagine and then we criticize ourselves for all the ways we fell short.
Yeah.
And I think it is Kyle who's someone that we both mutually enjoy listening to his work. He said, nobody breaks your heart. They only break your expectations.
Yeah.
It's when we have those expectations. And, you know, just the doing of your work that opened the opportunity doesn't mean that's going to be the only opportunity. It's
totally
an unfolding. And I'm such a wordsmith, a lover of words. It's like the word coincidence we think of as a happy accident. Coincide means they are a parallel. They coincide, they come together.
Yeah.
And it's the inside, you know, they come together in that inner way. So it's so fun when you can make life the game rather than be the victim of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so for some reason, for some, that whole idea of being a medium or being afraid of talking about the dead, it's like you have to have faced skepticism along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I know when I am beginning to send my work, allowing my work to go with a more spiritual trajectory. It's like we have an allergic reaction to religion, we have an allergic reaction to spirituality, we have all of our preconceived ideas. When you bump into that, um, tell us the story about when you have bumped into that and how somehow through doing your work and just being who you are, you saw a transformation of someone who may have been skeptical or had preconceived belief systems that made it hard for them to accept the validation that you provide. Tell us what you've bumped into along the way.
Yeah. So Christian people. So this
Yes.
goes back to junior high, and this is one of those synchronistic things that keeps showing up, and this is how the patterns keep showing up in your life. And this is such a cool thing that happened to me, that is such a teachable for myself and for others. In seventh grade, I was bullied really bad. So in eighth grade, we say grade 8 here. I know you're in the States and you say eighth grade. So in grade 8 here in Canada, I was sent to a private Christian school. My mom pulled some strings with some people that she knew to pluck me out of the school where I was bullied and put me into this private school to keep me safe. But I'd never been to church. I didn't know any book in the Bible. I knew Noah. I knew Santa. Wait, he's not in the Bible. I knew like who Jesus was, but I didn't know anything about him, right? So if you take in this like junior high and this middle school kind of like realm where everybody's just trying to be something, but they don't know who they are, and the hormones and all that kind of crazy stuff. And you take this girl who's really into, do you remember the movie The Craft? Did you ever see that about the witchy girls in high school?
No.
Anyway, that movie was out in that time. I loved it. And I was super intuitive. I was into John Edward and like all this, intuitive mediumship, all this kind of energy stuff. I think The Secret hit. I don't know if The Secret was out, but it was right around that time where The Secret came out. So there was like this new age kind of energy explosion in the world, and like put this girl who's all into this into a Christian school. And man, the bullying was worse in that school than it was in the other school. And the kids used to actually chant "Burn the Witch" when I walked down the hallway. So like traumatizing to a child, but also at the same time, now I'm like, well, whatever. I'm kind of a witch-ish. I don't know, whatever you think that is. I think the word witch is to me, it means a misunderstood woman who's in her power. So call me what you want to call me. Kind of rhymes with the B word too, right? It's the same thing. So I did a talk last year. A friend asked me to speak she does like a speaker series. And I went in and talked about my journey going through my depression and kind of my life story and how I came to be a medium. And I think I was talking about, I always say, follow the unicorn footprints. It's like follow those little heart whispers, those little soul whispers or 2x4s, no matter, depending on how long you've been ignoring them. So I did this talk and I was talking about mediumship and spirit and and all these synchronicities. And after, a woman came up to me and she said, I'm really curious about your work. And she said, I'm a psychologist and I'm very Christian. And she's like, do you think that like my dad is with me? And I said, absolutely. I'm like, I don't even need to tap in to tell you. If your dad's on the other side, he loves you and he's with you. Like that is baseline, the number one message that is always going to come through me. Now that's what spirit wants you to know. We're okay. We made it over here and we love you. We can still see what's going on in your life. And I said to her, I would love to do a reading for you. And she said, oh no, I can't. When my dad died years ago, I wanted to see a medium and someone in the family made me repent, and I can't, I'm Christian, I can't. And I just thought, oh, okay, here's school coming up. Here's junior high coming up again. Interesting. But she was lovely. She was open to a conversation. And she said it to my face, not behind my back. So that's like a really good sign in the realm of women. And so anyway, we had this mutual friend, that asked me to speak, and we had a really good conversation, the three of us, outside of this event, about, Christianity and what I believe in and all that kind of stuff. And her and I actually ended up going for coffee together. And she asked me what I believed in. And I thought, like, as a psychologist, are you just trying to see if I'm crazy? Like, are you what are you doing here? But I told her about, I use the G word. I say God. I kind of smooth it over with my audience a little bit and say universe or source, just because, people who are attracted to me might have those, experiences where people have judged them from the church. But I mean, God, universe, source, creator, whatever it is, it's the same thing, different word. And I said to her, I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. I believe in Jesus. I've worked with Jesus. It's come to me, and I have talked to Jesus. He's, Christ consciousness is very important to me, that oneness consciousness, that I'm totally on board with that. I think he was an amazing medium, an amazing energy healer, an amazing ascended master. But for me, he's not the only one. There's also Buddha, and from all different religions and belief systems. I believe in
ground with her.
It's all, yeah. And, I said, I probably see God in the same things that you do. I said, I saw Robin just this past summer pulling a worm out of the grass. And I cried because I just felt God in that moment. I've never seen that before. I've seen it on TV, and I know that Robin, birds pull worms out of grass. But just seeing it, I was just in this vibration of like connection with God. Like, God created this worm, and he created this robin, and he created my eyes, and here I am. And I said, we all believe in the same thing. You just, your church construct just said that I'm bad because Jesus is above everyone, and we're not supposed to have the same, abilities as Jesus. But even Jesus said himself, you're all like me. you all have the same abilities. So I said, I believe in it all. I believe in the same thing as you, just outside of this little box that I perceive the church to be in. But I don't judge anybody who goes to church. I don't judge anybody who, has these beliefs or go, if you need to go to church to feel God, that's cool. If you believe in all these things, I'm not judging you. And I think that is the difference between those kids in school and other people who, I had a friend say to me once, even though our husbands think you're all batshit crazy, I don't. And I was like, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the backhanded compliment. So I understand that what I do is still a little bit taboo. I understand that people are very skeptical about what I do. But I have proof, and I have evidence enough for myself. And I'm never here to prove anything to anybody. I'm never here to provide, evidence. If somebody wants to, ask me what my what my accuracy percentage is, I'm like, I don't know. Are you moved to tears? Did I give you a different perspective in your session? That's all I care about. That's all I care about, is you walking away maybe 1% better from our session.
Yes.
I'm not here to prove anything to anyone or convince them to believe what I believe. So
it's just applying that unconditional love to who you, by being unconditional love, applying that to what you do. One of the quotes that I remember hearing at some point was, some people, that's where God gets activated for them, is at church. And I know for me, when I do go to our Unity Church, it's really the people. It's not as much what is said, but it's the energy of the people that I enjoy. But the quote is like, going to church makes you no more a Christian than living in a garage makes you a car.
Yeah. And so, I love that you just said that about the people. It's not the church, it's the people, because God's inside of us.
Yes. Yeah.
God, spirit, universe, we all have our own internal universe inside of us,
Well,
mind, body, and spirit.
I think more and more, you're 30 years younger than I am, right? Did we figure that out?
Ish.
Yeah, ish. And so you're, you weren't raised in a particular religion. And I think more and more people, if they are raised in a particular religion, it's not with the same emphasis on doctrine as many are. And I know I live on the West Coast, and then you start going east, and it may shift in California, and that from California, Washington, Oregon, you get beyond the Rockies, and so you're in canada. I don't know if you're living in a more conservative part of Canada.
My province is very conservative.
Yeah. So you weren't raised in a particular religion?
No.
And so you don't come with that unpacking that needs to be done,
Yeah. I find all religion and belief systems fascinating. And I think that the human spirit needs to have faith in some capacity. And I have a really good friend who is she is an atheist. She is like, it's science. I have no proof of anything on the other side. And we're really good friends, and that's okay. And she supports what I do, and I'm just like, but why can't you see? But that's okay. Like, it's okay that like we can just be friends. And I think that's what's really important, is no matter what you believe in or what you've seen evidence of or what moves your soul or what you're called to, it's okay. It's okay.
So your parents weren't aware that you were being bullied now that you were in this Christian school, right?
No, I don't think they were. I think at that age, and I have a son who's in grade 8 right now, I think, and I can see it with him, is that's when we start to pull inward, and we start to self-criticize, and that ego really shows up. The ego starts to show up and keep us safe. The ego's function is its language is fear, and it's there to just keep us safe. And I think that and I'm learning from watching my son, watching all the kids just trying to be good enough or trying to fit in and trying to be and feeling like you're an adult. Like, I really remember feeling like I knew everything. I have to remind myself with my own son.
It's like, out now while you still know everything,
Yeah. And I think it's really important. And I know from my life, my parents just did what they did, and they didn't do anything wrong. I would never say, I had terrible parents, but now I'm like, okay, I just need to be tuned into my son maybe a little bit more, and maybe I can be a little bit supportive, but if he doesn't want it, then I can't. You can be there as much as you want for somebody, but unless they're going to take the help, then, and maybe that's exactly what I was like at that age too. I don't know. I should have that conversation with my mom, but I think that raging independence starts showing up at that time. So I don't think that, I know we've talked about, I talk when I do events and stuff, I talk about being bullied in junior high. And I know my mom has said, like, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. But it's, if you can't receive help for what you don't ask help for.
Right.
So, yeah.
When my mom was passing, when my ex-husband and I married, we eloped about 2 months before the big wedding, because at that point we were moving in together, but our landlady would not let us move in together unless we showed her a marriage certificate.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. So we went and eloped, but I never told my mom about it. We just went and had the big wedding in September, and anytime my parents would come, he would move out, and you did that whole thing.
Yeah.
So when my mom was dying, the night before she passed, is where I said, Mom, my mom was alcoholic. So I said, we really need to talk about this, how these 40 years of my life were like this, because you were alcoholic. And she said, well, you know, I could die any minute now. Do you really want to go to the past? Like, I'm sorry. I mean, she was saying this in a very kind, loving way.
Yeah.
You want to spend your time talking about the past, or do you want to be present with me now? And I would say, oh, but you're not going to be there when the grandkids come and when Dana my daughter graduates from high school. And she said, well, you know, again, that's out there. I'm going to be there. I just won't bring my body. We're here right now. You're with me right now. And I said, well, I at least have to tell you that we eloped. You know, it's like I'm trying to get everything off of my chest. And she said, oh, I knew that. It's like, here, I thought I had this big secret that I was going to reveal. So
you can't let her die without letting her know this. And she's like, no, isn't that brilliant though? On her deathbed, all she cared about was being in the present moment. You know, when you're faced with your last moments, you know. Yes. And I always say to people,
absolutely freed me in that moment. So it didn't matter what happened in those 40 years. I didn't have to pick through all of the dark and focus on the dark. I just got to experience the light with her. So what a gift.
That's so beautiful.
Tell people about what a typical session looks like for you. And you know, we hear and witness so many different mediums having so many different ways that they access the information they do. Tell us about a typical session for yourself.
Well, it varies on the person. I think it varies on their openness. And I used to really just go, this is a bad thing to say, but go for the jugular, go for the smackdown, and give you everything that you need to know, like right there. And now I've pulled back a little bit just from learning that maybe that's not always what people need. And also working with spirit to kind of pull back a little bit. Not that I hold anything back, but I like to get straight to the point. There's traditional mediumship, which is, you know, if you go and you learn from, you know, the spiritualist community, and then there's my kind of messy mediumship over here. And I'm always learning and always learning and always learning. And I feel like I've never fit into a box. People like me, people like you, probably was it you we were talking the other day? There is no box.
Right.
There is no box. And if you're thinking outside of the box, you still think that there's a box. And I really have never believed in the box. So mediumship with me is guides, angels, ancestors, and loved ones on the other side. And sometimes we go a little bit intergalactic, and if people are really open, usually healers and readers, we'll go into the higher dimensions. But for the average Joe or the average Jane, it's going to look like mom, dad, sister, brother, you know, friend, somebody who's passed that's going to come in, give validations, things that I can't Google, things that, you know, I would never know about you. And after validation is messages. And just like with you, when I said, you know, I give the messages from them. I really loved you. Thank you for being there. Thanks for the flowers. Thanks for taking my care of my kids after I pass. Thanks for this, da, 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 da. Then my guides like to come in, and my guides, I call them they. And as I said earlier, they're very progressive with their pronouns. They come in, and then I say, they say this, they want you to know this, they're showing me this, they. And they feel like a chorus. They just feel like kind of like a stream of consciousness, stream of energy kind of coming through me. And that's more of like the divine kind of from source kind of energy. That all said, I really find it fascinating, and maybe I'm getting off on a tangent here, but I find it fascinating when I watch other mediums and other psychics and they say, oh, spirit just told me this. And I'm like, why can't we just have it for ourselves? Why can't you just say it and take credit? Because nobody cares where it's coming from. And I also find it fascinating that I can say all of this stuff that comes through me and not say my guides are saying, or your person's saying, or that person's saying, and nobody listens. But as soon as I say my spirit guides are saying, people are like, oh, she knows what she's talking about because it's coming from somewhere else. And that's why I feel like everybody has the ability. Everybody has some sort of stream of consciousness, whether you're channeling music, whether you're channeling science, whether you're channeling psychology, whether you're channeling whatever, math, whatever you're channeling, we're all channeling at all times, as long as we're not in the vibration of fear. That's what blocks the channel.
Right. The
So,
whole thing about fear is so attached to death, you know, and
yeah,
symbols are dark and
yeah,
scary, and you know, it's always the monster under the bed.
yeah.
Uh,
And what death is freedom from fear.
yeah, yeah,
It's freedom from fear.
yeah.
If I died tomorrow of coronavirus, oh my God, knock on wood, I don't want to, I'm not ready yet. But, you know, if I
Yes.
died tomorrow of whatever, I would be free from fear. There's no fear on the other side. No spirit's ever come through and been like, I'm really worried about you.
Right.
They're like, I'm okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's all good
Right.
over here. Yeah.
I know, you know, my ex-husband passed when he was only 53. And, you know, what I knew is that uh, I commend my daughters because they embraced and expanded the way that they could love him for who he was, rather than stay really focused on all of the ways that he couldn't be for
Yeah.
them in his human form.
Yeah.
And what I keep telling them is like, you know, if there are any questions about, did he love me? Could it have been different? Was it this? It's like, oh my gosh, he gets to be the ultimate parent now. He is the ultimate guide now, you know. Um, there really is that awareness for me, given my experience, and what, again, you just validated what I know
Yeah.
this morning, that death is not to be feared. It's the uncertainty that we fear. It's like last January, I had an emergency surgery. To me, that was what death was that not being able to talk to my kids, not certain about, you know, what's going to happen, what the outcome is going to be, all of the pain. It's the uncertainty prior to our passing that we are anxious about.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate faith to just stay in the experience of the freedom.
In the observation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the ultimate surrender, is just staying in or returning to the observation of what's happening, instead of getting into the muck of it.
That was the switch for me. The
Yeah.
switch for me in my near-death experience was fighting, trying to figure out, I was drowning. So trying to figure out which way the bubbles go, which way the current is going. Oh, if I swim across the current, all of that mental stuff happened. And as soon as I said, this may not be a bad way to go, I surrender.
Yeah.
So that word surrender is a powerful, powerful word for me. Yeah. And I know that whether it's in the small deaths that we experience throughout life, mm-hmm. or the one that happens at the end with the final exhale. Yeah. And my experience is that when the human experience becomes too overwhelming or no longer produces growth, when you are in your body, you go out. Mm-hmm. So you gain the wisdom by observing rather than experiencing trauma. Yeah. So what is trauma to us in our human form is not trauma for the one appearing to experience it. Yeah. So, yeah. In your soul coaching, tell us about those sessions. How do they unfold? How do you work with people there?
So that's where the conversation comes in. So when I did your reading, I said, don't tell me anything. Say yes, no, or does not compute. I have no idea what you're talking about. That's all I want to know. And in soul coaching, I just ask people to tell me about themselves, tell me what they're struggling with. What is like the one thing, like what's up for you right now? What is the thing that's reoccurring to you? Where do you want to be also is a really good way to start with those. Like what is it that you're working towards? I work with a lot of moms, because I'm a mom, because we like attracts like, moms who are stuck in that white picket fence syndrome, moms who are anxious, who have kids that are anxious, moms who are depressed, feel like there's got to be more than this. I always joke that my whole life is always like a Reba McEntire song. Is there life out there? I don't know if you know that song, but it's a song about like, is there life out there beyond this? Is
Yeah.
like, what's beyond this? And I work with a lot of like spiritual entrepreneurs or people who are coming into their gifts, or realizing that they are sensing energy, or that they are taking on other people's energy. And it's like, where do you want to go? And how can we reverse engineer from where you are to where do you want to go? And it's not always
Struggling with the whole money thing. And I think for women, it's the enough, being enough, having enough, doing enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know with a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, it's, am I allowed to charge money?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of outside opinion that says, well, you can't charge money for that, or too much, or you should just give it away.
If you charge for spiritual things, then you're just the capitalist who it's all about.
Totally. But money's just energy. It's just energy. It actually, like, does money even exist if we're getting billion-dollar bailouts? Are those actual dollar bills in a bank, or where is it created? Like, where does it come from?
Right.
And like, I haven't seen a $20 bill in probably a year, because I do all my banking electronically. People pay me online. I pay my bills online.
Right.
Does money even exist, or is it just energy, or an idea? And ideas are just energy, right? So, so I help people reverse engineer where they are to where they want to be. And we do it from a place of, my whole coaching, program, and everything that I go back to is based on a mantra that I asked for when I was in a kind of a stuck place in a meditation. Said, okay, give me something that I can say that makes me feel good. And what came through is, I am calm, I am confident, I am capable. And it felt like a damn lie for a really long time, because I did not feel calm, I didn't feel confident, and I didn't feel capable. But I kept saying it over and over and over again. And eventually, I think you got to say these things when you are feeling them. So I feel calm, I am calm, I am calm. When you accomplish something, I am capable, I am capable, I am capable. Or when you're confident, I'm confident, I'm confident, I'm confident. And then when you go back and say your mantra, when you're feeling totally like you're skidding out of control, then it's like, you're reminding yourself, I am calm, I am confident, I am capable. You've built those neural pathways from that place when you're actually feeling it. And you can access that energy through that neural pathway, when you're not feeling it. And then you're just reminding yourself, and then you're providing evidence. So you cannot be capable of living.
You provide the evidence when you do something, even as small as it is.
Tiniest thing.
I am really good at brushing my teeth or flossing my teeth. I'm really confident that I got every little thing. Even there, it translates,
Totally. Even, flipping your lid at your kids and just being like, okay, just going to count to 10, use my skills, calm down. I am capable of not flipping my lid.
Yes.
Whatever it is, wherever you find those little wins, just reaffirming. And then when you're not feeling it, then you can access that place. But you can't be capable of going where you want to go, living where you want to go, or where you want to be, being who your soul is calling for you to be, step up and be, if you don't have confidence. Confidence comes from knowing who you are. Confidence comes from knowing what lights your soul on fire, what's important to you, morals and values. Can you make a list of your 5 top morals and values? Most people can't. And you can't find out who you are unless you can access a calm place. You cannot become confident in who you are if you cannot calm your nervous system, if you can't allow your body just to relax with meditation, or swimming, or walking, or grounding outside, whatever it is that helps you find that calm place. So calm, confident, and capable, and you can return to all 3 of them in every situation. So this affirmation that came to me in meditation from wherever, it's what I built. It's what I asked for, what do I need right now? What do I need? Do I need an affirmation? What do I need? And and spirit gave me, the universe gave me, God gave me, whatever you want to call it, they gave me a basis to create this coaching program. And
well, just like religion and spirituality are triggered words, the words prayer and meditation are charged words for many. So how would you describe meditation, and what is your application?
So I love to get nerdy about the brain function and the psychology behind meditation. But I also, it's like mind, body, and spirit. So mind, we're building pathways, neural pathways. You know, the gray matter is building da 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 da. The body, we're doing breath work and just concentrating on the breath, sending our breath to our toes with our intention. We're calming the body. We're sending oxygenated blood to our organs, which when we're in fight and flight, we're in the stress response all the time. Our blood's going to our arms and legs in preparation to fight, flight, or freeze. And that's why that's why stress causes heart disease. And that's why women, the number one killer of women is heart disease, because we're taking on all of the things and we're stressing about all of the things.
Well,
And then
the thing about that is that women, over time, part of that not enoughness has come from having to adapt to the way that men do stress using adrenaline in order to play, in order to fight like a warrior in the world, rather than through that oxytocin, that different way of handling stress. The way women do it is like nobody is going to mess with the kids, period.
Mama bear.
And they're different, but women have really, their health has really suffered as a result of blowing out our adrenals by adrenaline rather than accessing the power that we are through oxytocin. You know?
Totally. Yeah. And then the spiritual component is accessing that place of inspiration, that source creator that's in us. And creation, and we're always looking for, you know, the outside answers and the outside solutions, but it's all in here. And that's, you know, we talk about women's intuition, men call it gut instinct, and we have this mama bear instinct, women's intuition, whatever it is, it's the same thing. It's different words for the same thing, and you can't access it if you're looking outside all the time. And that's where meditation is so important. And I always feel like that's the one that slips in the back door. So when I teach meditation, I'm teaching from a physiological. I talk about the brain, I talk about the body, but people don't want to hear about the spiritual. Maybe they do, but as an introduction, we talk about the brain, we talk about the body, and then through the back door, we slip the spirituality, which whether people think they're spiritual or not, they are. Right. In my experience, or in my belief, is, you know, we're all children of God. We're all parts of the universe. We're all divine in our own right. Every single human being on earth, love them or hate them, they are all divine beings, and we all have spirits and souls. And whether people want to access that part or not, that's up to them. But I think that is like the hidden benefit to meditation. And it was actually, that was the driver for me to start meditating, is the spiritual connection. And I was surprised by the mind part, actually. The body, not so much, but the mind part, like getting nerdy about brain science, surprised me, because I'm just like the spiritual free spirit. And I could go on and on about brains.
Oh, no. And for me, you know, it's like I'm older enough than you, and just older in general, to know that I am really exhausted by having an overactive brain that, you know, really is driven by the ego mind. I'm really exhausted by having gotten to a point, for so many reasons, that letting that lead, and through that very intellectually oriented brain as the leader, it has overridden my body, telling me to slow down at a certain time, or because my mom was a master of pushing through, and I value that she gave me the essence of that gift, but we've abused that gift in my family. And then spirit just sits over there patiently saying, you know, if you just let me drive, everybody gets to have a good time. You know, everybody is honored. So it's only the faintness. So when I sit to meditate, the brain is really active, and it takes a while to let all of that sift through. And yet I'm exhausted, and I know that I don't have enough time left to let that part of me lead, that it really is time to let spirit lead. And I don't succeed all the time, but to let spirit lead, because spirit will never abuse my body. It will just utilize my body and allow my body to heal and grow. And it will always draw on the gifts that I have intellectually and tell my ego, you know, you can sit in the back seat, but you can't control the radio. You can't drive. You can't, you know, have the GPS system.
Yeah.
It's letting God lead.
Totally.
So,
and just the saying, follow your heart. It never leads you astray. You know, how long has that saying, people say that all the time, but we don't do it. We don't do it. And yeah, I think that really realizing, I think for a long time I was taught, you know, fear is bad. Don't listen to fear. Fear is terrible. Your ego is bad. We talk about eradicating the ego, kill the ego. Ego is bad. Da 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 da. But that's just, I mean, psychologically, the ego just
it's a necessity. It's a
necessity. It tells you to put your pants on before you go outside because you're going to get embarrassed.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned all of the lessons that you learned as a result of the passing of your dad. And I think that that's truly one of the things that I've learned with the different losses, whether it was my divorce, whether it was the loss of my parents, the loss of my friend yesterday, the loss of my dear friend Mary last July, that it's through loss. It's like happiness and joy and don't have to dissolve completely during those times. It may take the reworking of it, but so many insights and so many gifts come regardless of our circumstances. So it is about being able to embrace all aspects of the human experience while knowing that all is well.
Yeah.
Regardless of how it appears.
Yeah. I think, grief is a crazy thing. And I said that to people before I even knew that it was true, because that's what other people say. It's like, no two people grieve the same. Grief always looks different for everybody. And it comes back and it smacks you upside the head when you least expect it. Yes. And you just have to become friends with it. You just have to accept it and allow it to be there. Yeah. And let it show you what's hiding in you. And I know that I am like the workaholic. I'm very much like my dad. My dad was a businessman, and he was always like tuned into his work, and he loved what he did, and he always, was the provider and all of that. And I've been celebrated for being very much like my dad in that way. And I think of, like, is that what's important? What would I have rather my dad been, always working? He worked from home, so he was always home, but like always working. Or would I have liked to have more walks or fun times or more things like that? So I've really taken, not that I would change anything, but like, do I want to be celebrated for being a hard worker when I die? Or do I want to be celebrated for being more well-rounded and more plugged into my family and more, and I think doing the best that I can. I don't want to put pressure on myself to be perfect in all ways. But what would I give is anything for is more time with my dad, because I can't have that. So how can I create that in my family as a mom and a daughter and a sister and a friend to people? How can I create that? in a little bit more balanced way.
I call that the gift of opposites.
Yeah.
It's where I recognize that those places where my mom fell short were perfect, because by viewing those, I could apply them differently with my own kids. And I feel like if there is any success, that was the huge gift that my mom gave me. I mean, I feel so deeply connected to my kids and grandkids because she didn't know how, and by observing how she couldn't, I knew that I could stumble through and find the ways that I could, or why it became essential for me.
Totally.
There was one other thing that I wanted to ask you that came up. Well, it's just not there, so I will let that be. I would like, first of all, I know what it was. When we worked earlier today, when you did my reading, one of the very beautiful things was you say yes, no, or doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know anything else. And that's where I think our traditional sense of medium is, oh, you know, they've Googled, they've done this, they've done that. There are truly so many things that came up during our session together that you had absolutely no idea of. So it gives me just the validation that my faith isn't made up. My faith is based on truth. So I'm really grateful for the example you set for what we can develop in ourselves. And we can have a separate conversation about ways you can suggest, or maybe you can suggest for those who are interested in developing that inner ability more, how they go about that.
Talk to your spirits, talk to your loved ones, talk, because they're always listening. And that's such a common thing that comes up in readings. Spirit will a lot of the time say, I heard you when you were talking about this. I had a reading last week, and Spirit was showing me, it was in the very beginning of the reading, Spirit was showing me a goat. And sometimes Spirit shows me things and I'm like, I'm not saying that. That's going to make me look stupid. It's going to be wrong. And that's why I said to you in your reading too, I always trust Spirit and I never trust my client, because we forget things. Spirit doesn't forget things. But I said to this person, I'm like, I'm going to say this. It makes no sense to me. I have no reference. I'm reading strangers 99% of the time. And I'm like, they're showing me a goat. I don't know why. And I'm like, do you have goats? And they're like, no, that's so weird. But this morning we were talking about the house up the street with the goats, and maybe we should get one for our farm or acreage or wherever they lived. And I said, well, that's Spirit's way of telling you that they were with you in that moment. They were with you. Like nobody could, I can't Google your conversation about goats.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's what I've had to come to learn, is like, you just give what you get, and don't question Spirit, because they know what they're talking about. But talk to your loved one. Pardon?
It comes in symbols for you, and feelings.
Signs, symbols, feelings. Yeah, it comes in all sorts of different ways. And it's like playing charades with my imagination sometimes. So you can imagine how hard it is to trust that and deliver the messages when you feel like you're playing charades with
Another thing that I didn't share with you before our session for sure, but you said, oh, I woke up this morning feeling, smelling
cigarette.
smoke. And both of my parents smoked, it was in relationship to my dad. So powerful. Just thank you. It was a real gift to me.
You're so welcome.
Yeah. So how can people reach you to work with you as a soul coach, or to work with you as a medium?
So my website, kelseydalziel.com. That's where everything is.
I'll let you spell that, and then I'll put it on the...
Do you want me to do it right now or after?
No, right now.
KelseyDalz, if you're in Canada, Z if you're in the States, IEL. And and if you just search my name on Facebook or Instagram, I'm on YouTube. I do some weekly energy updates on YouTube. I have some videos on updates. or on YouTube, I have a video on how to get the best reading. So it's not just all up to me, it's also up to you and your understanding of how it's happening, which is a really good resource for people. I really recommend people watch how to get the best reading, whether you're getting it from me or somebody else, because you need to know what your role is in it. It's a three-way conversation between spirit, me, and you. And yeah, I'm on social media everywhere. I'm really active on Instagram, and I just started kind of a membership for soul coaching, just to make it easier for people to access that right now, where we're all so heightened and we're all so stressed out. So I have that option. So instead of one-on-one, it's kind of like a group thing every week that I'm doing. And I'm going to have guest speakers in there and stuff. Something that my heart has been telling me to do for so long. And now it's like, what do you have to lose? Just put it out there and be accessible to people, and be the way shower.
Well, and all of the time in the world, because we can't go anywhere, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And this is going to be our ultimate connection. We're really learning what connection means to us.
Well,
right now.
We're definitely, it doesn't take a psychic or a rocket scientist to figure out that we are under a paradigm shift right now.
So yeah, and I love holding people through that. I love holding space for people through their own personal paradigm shifts. So,
well,
thank you the opportunity.
Very much. Thank you. You know, I normally like to keep my interviews to 30 minutes, but I knew when we talked that this one I was just going to let it go and see where it went.
Yeah.
So I am very grateful, and I know that it will be a great blessing to so many. So thank you, Kelsey. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. You're such a blessing.